This U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel deal is the only way that we can keep our identity. So I want to do the timeline, and I couldn't think of anybody who has seen it from all angles other than this guy. Yeah, many of you know him because of the sporting news that is the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show, our old Chat Pack television show, his days at Mountaineer. But this guy has got some real brain power when it comes to putting things together, especially in the world of entrepreneurialism and industry. He is none other than Ted Arnott. So, Ted, let's just talk about how the last 40 years have unfolded and why we find ourselves, those of us who really care, hanging on for dear life trying to get this deal to the finish line. So when did the decline of the steel industry really begin?
Well, you have to go back to what happened in World War II, believe it or not, because all of America's manufacturing power was shifted to make machines for war. And then when they came back and the steel companies were rolling to really get the 1950s, 1960s economic boom that we had, they were the old steel mills that had been constructed in the 20s, 30s, 40s. And then as we rebuilt Japan and Germany, we rebuilt them with the most modern steel mills that the world knew at that time. So you had the steel mills like U.S. Steel, Weirton Steel, and the others that were trying to compete on a global basis because it became instantly a global market after World War II. And they had to do it with facilities that did not have the infrastructure that a lot of the newer facilities that we helped construct that were our competitors, both in Japan, Germany, then subsequently China. And so it was a lack of really the ability or the willingness to put the infrastructure needed or the repairs and reestablishment needed in the steel industries to allow them to compete in a global market. My first entry into the steel industry was with Republic Steel in Cleveland, as I worked there every summer that I went to school. And it was, the facilities were disparate. They were spread out. And if you drive through Weirton, look at Weirton Steel, it's been cobbled together over periods of time and they've gone from having blast furnaces to a tin mill, then eventually shut down. And that's the same kind of progress that's happened to U.S. Steel. And so you look at what we've done, we basically helped build and restructure and refabricate our competitors. And so in a global market, we were not positioned to compete against these people from the steel industry standpoint.
All right, now I need you to explain some political stuff to me because you're all in on that as well. A lot of people don't realize because of the gaming that we have here in Pennsylvania, you were writing legislation in Charleston to get it to West Virginia and to places like Mountaineer that eventually led to what we have to this day, a great tax base and obviously a place for people to go enjoy themselves and blow off a little steam. So I want to talk about this whole idea that these unions support a lot of these candidates, and it's one of the reasons why, and they've mentioned all of them, Democrats especially, are not all in on getting this deal done because they don't want to lose that money to get reelected from the union that is, well, like the USW. Is that fact or fiction?
That's fact. And it's not just for them. You've got Cleveland Cliffs actually competing with U.S. Steel. And Cleveland Cliffs actually had the Weirton Steel factory, owned it, and they shut it down over the last couple of years because their lobbying efforts failed to keep the tin mill market going. And so you've got not just unions working against management, but you've got different steel companies working against each other in the overall steel market in the U.S. And the whole problem that Cleveland Cliffs had, and I was actually at dinners with their chairman, Congallas, he was upset because of foreign interference with the tin mill market, and he was trying to get positive legislation passed so that the tin mill could continue to go here in Weirton. But now he's on the opposite side of U.S. Steel on the Nippon deal because of competition. So you've got a political warfare going on pretty much from every different angle you can think of. And yet, if you were to look at it, and this is why I don't understand the politicians not having a better 40,000-foot view, you've got a chance to repatriate some of the billions that we've spent in Japan to help build their steel mills, although it's been old, and Japan. They have more patents, and China have more patents with respect to these industries than anybody else. And it seems to me, and this is where I think maybe Trump may be coming from, the guy who authored the book, The Art of the Deal, maybe to negotiate to make sure that Nippon's investment stays in America, and they have stated publicly that that's what they want to do. But you've got so many different political factions going against each other in this thing: steel company against steel company, union against management. And then you've got the steel companies down south. If they were to transfer the manufacturing down south, they for the most part are non-union steel companies. And if the thing is, if U.S. Steel were able to continue, the problem that they have internally is, do they then move their operations down south to union-free steel manufacturing facilities? So it's very complex and very political.
What you just said, though, moments ago, people need to remember Weirton Steel, Cleveland Cliffs, and they shut it down. So do you think if a deal with Cleveland Cliffs somehow could be brokered, and I still don't understand how that could happen, that eventually they would leave this region, meaning U.S. Steel would no longer exist because of a Cleveland Cliffs deal?
I don't think that deal is possible right at the moment. Gonzalez said that it was not, but that could be posturing also. But it's certainly a possibility, although they were supported by the unions very strongly here at Weirton Steel, or at that point it was Cleveland Cliffs. I still call it Weirton Steel. They were supported by the unions, but you've got to look at these different factions within the unions themselves and their positions. So I think that if the Nippon Steel doesn't go, I don't know that there could be a deal with Cleveland Cliffs. I mean, that's outside of my pay grade to know that one. But I think if there were to be such a deal, the jobs in Pennsylvania would still be at risk. And I think a good negotiator would be able to get some kind of affirmative deal from Nippon to ensure that these jobs stay in here, stay union. But you've got, like I said, you're playing horizontal chess here. You're not playing checkers.
Great stuff. We're going to keep Ted a little bit longer. This is maybe the best stuff ever that I've heard about this deal. It's raw, it's real, and he understands the X and O's. But this isn't a game we're playing. This is with lives, working class paychecks of people who are depending on it, and this region depending on it more than any of us probably will know. Only if it does go away will we understand the significance of it, and hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, Ted, I know my guest tonight, your Pratt Pack on KDK. Stay with us.